Hey, this is Dancing Rabbit. I've done 3 tarot readings tonight, which is not a terrible lot, but it's more than I've done in a while, so I thought I'd give myself a rest and give the cards a rest and just talk to you a little bit about tarot and how I do tarot. I don't consider myself an expert in this, and I'm not going to try to give you a long dissertation, just kind of a ramble about how I do tarot and kind of my experience with it. As you can see, I'm using just my computer table desktop here. Usually when I do readings at a psychic fair or somewhere, I use a fold-up wooden table that has some Celtic knotwork on the top. You may have seen that in some of my earlier videos. I don't usually use a cloth. I know that's customary for most readers, but for some reason I've just never felt the need to put a cloth on the table. It's really nice wood, it's clean, I use it for an altar, I use it for tarot reading, so I don't feel like I need to protect the cards from anything. I do usually wipe down the surface with Florida water. This is basically an inexpensive cologne that you can find in the Hispanic section of most grocery stores. Crazy Boy TX introduced it to me, and I found it very effective in cleansing, in helping you ground and center, and so I usually pour a little bit of it in the palm of my hand, and oops, that's a little more than a little bit. Rub my hands together, kind of massage the back of my neck, and release any of the negativity that might have sneaked in. I usually light a candle or incense. There's places that I've been that people are sensitive to smells, and so I just use a candle. It's also good as a centering tool to gently gaze into the candle flame and unfocus your eyes and kind of refocus the mind, or maybe open up the subconscious mind and downplay the conscious. But anyway, I find it useful. The deck that I'm using is the Robin Wood deck, and it has the Celtic knotwork on the back. This is the second deck that I have worked with. The first deck was called the Tarot of the Witches, and I guess I got it because of the name. It's a pretty good deck. It's of course based on the Rider-Waite deck, like almost all of the traditional sort of tarot decks are, but I didn't keep it for very long, and it didn't really speak to me like I thought it would. But I really like Robin Wood. Her illustrations are beautiful, the colors are vibrant, and there's a lot of detail that's hidden in the background of the card and in the figures. So in my opinion, this is a lot easier deck to read than the traditional Rider-Waite deck. Another thing that I like about it, if I can find the card, is the Devil card. Most traditional decks have the Devil card drawn as a really evil-looking devil with horns and all that. But as a pagan, I really don't believe in Satan or the devil as a being of total evil. And the way Robin Wood has done the Devil card, you can see that there is a couple, and there is a treasure chest that's chained down, and the man is reaching out toward the doorway, but he can't get to the doorway because he's unwilling to turn loose of the box of treasure. Sort of like how you catch a monkey by putting the candy in the weighted coconut shell. The monkey sticks his hand in to grab the candy and is caught. If he'd turn loose of the candy, he could get free, but he's unwilling to do that. And that's really how I see the devil, not as a spiritual being, but as something we sort of do to ourselves. The style of card lay that I usually use is called the Celtic Cross, so I'll shuffle the cards several times. I've usually shuffled it quite a few times before I've even started one of these videos, and I separate it into 3 piles. I've seen some readers that ask the person that they're reading for to draw cards from a sort of spread out fanned deck, and I don't have anything against that, but I just don't usually do it that way. And I pass my hand over the deck and feel which of the 3 piles I should choose. Okay, Celtic Cross spread. I don't usually use a significator card that's drawn from the deck before you shuffle it and represents the person that you're reading for. I don't do that unless I know the person well. Otherwise, how would I know what card to draw? So the first card covers you. This represents where the person is right now. The second card crosses them for good or ill. Sometimes this is read as a bridge of getting a way to get out of that situation and move on. Sometimes it's read as a roadblock. The next card that I deal is beneath you. You might have noticed that I'm really dealing the cards sort of upside down. I'm dealing them toward you, the person that I'm reading for. An awful lot of readers would have dealt this card here and said, this is beneath you. And as I'm looking at the cards, yes, it is beneath the covering card, but I deal them the other way so that the person that I'm reading for can look at them and get a better sense of it. If I'm reading for myself, then I would have dealt it over here. Okay, this is beneath you. That's the background, the history a little bit longer past. Behind you, the more immediate past. Crowning you, and before you. The before you card is the immediate future, and the crowning card is the little bit longer distance future. Let me scoot these over so I'll have room. Then I deal a column of cards. The self, this basically repeats the covering card or tells more about the person that you're reading for's character, who they are, who their self is. The house or environment, this is the surroundings of the person, their hopes and fears, and the outcome. I've read at some psychic fairs where we wouldn't have very many people, and so the various psychics would take turns reading for each other because otherwise we just get bored to death. And there are a lot of the psychics that have read, that I've sat and had them read cards, that I felt like that they really weren't so much reading the cards as they were reading me. They kept up a steady, rapid pace dialogue back and forth, asking questions, making comments, asking questions, pulling things out of me. Now, this is probably useful. I said might. It probably is useful. It must be, because some of them have a lot of clients. But I take it more as a carnival trick. Now, I guess it's probably cheap therapy, and the person getting the reading gets something out of it, gets some benefit, but I don't feel like that it is a card reading. It's a reading of the person. And these folks usually talk about doing intuitive reading, which I take as being they're sort of making it up as they go along. I do a sort of semi-intuitive symbolic reading. I believe that the cards have definite meanings, that the Page of Cups is a young artistic man sensitive. Sometimes I use the Page of Cups as a significator card for a young gay man. The Fool is an inner child starting a new adventure. These cards have a cluster of specific meanings, and you can learn these from the books. And so I would suggest that if you're beginning tarot, one of the things you begin to do is begin to memorize the meanings of the cards. And you might take 2 or 3, 4 cards a day, study them, meditate on them, look at the pictures in detail, and read the book meanings, and think about it. Now, the meaning of the card that I would use in a reading depends on a couple of things. It depends on the position of the card. I would probably give a slightly different interpretation to a card that was, say, in the near future as opposed to a crossing card. I also think that the meaning that I give depends on the other cards in the reading. Doing a tarot reading is a lot like reading a children's picture book. You know, those little books that don't really have words, they just have pictures. And so the parent is going to sit and look at the pictures and sort of tell the story to the young child. This is how I do a tarot reading. Now, I also feel that partway through most of the readings, there is definitely a shift in consciousness. I feel a kind of heightened excitement, and I begin to talk faster, and the words just sort of come tumbling out. But I don't claim to be psychic. I'm not sure where the reading is actually coming from my subconscious, from the very rich symbolism in the cards. And then the person I'm reading for has to interpret and apply that to their own life. One of the things you may have noticed in Reva Witch's reading is that one of the cards, and I think it was the Hangman over here, just suddenly mysteriously flipped around. Well, what happened is that I had paused the video capture because I'm using an inexpensive webcam. The video quality and the audio-visual sync is not as good as my digital camera, but it's a lot quicker. I don't have to download, I don't have to convert files, I don't have to do a lot of editing. I can open Windows Movie Maker and do a direct capture, do a little bit of editing, and then upload it to YouTube. So it's a whole lot quicker. It's maybe 3 times as quick. Oh, anyway, what happened is I had paused the video to wipe up some of the Florida water that I'd spilled, and I just turned the card around. I don't read reversed cards. That's just something that I don't do. Reversed cards are not usually bad. They don't have the opposite meaning of the upright card. Generally, they mean something similar but a little weaker, or perhaps in excess, so it's not good as opposed to being something very good. When I started reading, it seemed to me that I had way more stuff to memorize than I could possibly memorize, and by also learning the reversed card meanings, I was doubling the amount of work that I was going to have to do. And since a reversed card looks the same as the upright card except it's upside down, it was very hard for me to try to memorize the reversed meanings. So I just don't do that. And so as I'm dealing the cards out, I always turn them into the upright position. And that's what I'd done with the Hangman on pause. I just flipped him around because Hangman is already upside down. He's hanging by his feet from a tree limb, and so it looks like, if you deal him reversed, it looks like he's standing up. And I noticed that and just flipped it around. So I want you guys to understand what had happened and that I wasn't really monkeying around with the card reading. I was just tidying things up. I think that if you decide in your mind that before you begin that you'll use reversed readings or that you won't use reversed readings, then the reading is valid. If you're going to change your mind in the middle of a reading because you don't like the way the reading is going, that's kind of cheating. Anyway, I find tarot readings to be a lot of fun, not as difficult as, say, rune casting, because you've got all the pretty pictures and the symbolism. So pendulum work and tarot reading are really the two forms of divination that I use. And I see that I've run nearly 16 minutes here, and you guys are just looking at a tarot spread for nobody in particular, so I'm going to stop here. Hope you watch some of the rest of my readings. If you'll give me a couple of weeks to get caught up, I'll be accepting new requests for readings. So till next reading video, Dancing Rabbit wishing you and yours peace.